Hi, sixth graders. We are starting chapter 2. So we are going to do lessons 2.1 and 2.2 together in this video. So lesson 2.1 starts on page 80. Our learning targets are being able to read and write integers, finding the absolute value of a number, and comparing and ordering integers. So you might want to pause me quick and write down your learning targets. So when we talk about integers, we are talking about any number from this set. So -4, -3, -2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, on and on and on. So these dots means continues without end. So it goes on and on and on this way. And it goes on and on and on and on this way. So -2 million or 2 trillion would be part of the set of integers, and +2 trillion would be also in the set of integers. So positive, negative, and 0 are all integers. Okay, a very important word to know and understand and probably have written down. Okay, an integer, positive, negative, and 0. So 0 we consider neither negative or positive. 0 is just 0. Okay, positive integers, as we know, are greater than 0, and they can be written with or without a positive sign. Usually, almost all the time, do we write our positive numbers without a positive sign. So +1 is the same as 1, or +2 is the same as 2. Okay, same with 3. Negative integers are less than 0. Okay, so any negative number is always less than 0, and they are always written with a negative sign. Because if we didn't write our sign and we just wrote 3, we would get it confused with +3. Positives, we may or may not have a sign. Negatives, we always have a sign. Okay, so as you notice, we have 0 in the middle of our number line, and we know from way back when that when we're counting up from 0, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 is closest to 0. So we're basically doing the exact same thing, except we're going backwards. So here we're counting down in the counting order. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. All right, so if we want to use integers to represent different situations, say there was an average temperature of 5 degrees below normal. Okay, below means under or negative, I guess is what you could say. So below normal, so we would just represent it as -5. Okay, an average rainfall of 5 inches above normal. So we're not really exactly sure what normal is in these two situations, but we just know that it's +5, that's how we would write it, above normal. And our temperature up here being 5 degrees below normal, so -5 below normal. A loss of 50 yards, so loss would mean that it's taken away or it's gone down. So loss would represent negative, so we would write it as -50. And then a deposit of $100 means that you're putting money into a bank, so you're adding money into your account. So that would be positive, so +$100. Okay? So if we are given some integers and a number line, we need to know where to place them on a number line. So as you can see, this set of integers, so remember these brackets right here tell us if tell us what numbers are included in our set. So these brackets tell us that right now 4, -6, and 0 is our set of integers. So 4, okay, well first we find 0 and then 4 is positive, so we're going to go to the right and we know that 4 is right here. And then -6, we could start at 0 again. go down to -6 and draw our dot. And then 0 is right here. So drawing a dot is letting us know that that's how we plot or graph it on a number line. Okay, if we have -2, 8, and -7, so -2 is negative, so we know it's going to be to the left of 0. So -2, we can start at 0 and go 1, 2, and there's our -2. Okay. 8 is positive. Okay, we know that 8 is right here. And then -7 is between 6 and 8. Okay, so we know therefore we know it's going to be between -6 and -8. Okay, -4 we have right here. 10 we have right here. Here's -3. We know it's going to be between -2 and 4. And then 7 is right here. So positives are anything to the right of 0. Negative, anything to the left of 0. And the farther we get away from 0 on this side, the smaller the number is. Okay, even though that number, so like -20, even though 20 is bigger than 10, -20 is going to be smaller than -10 because it's further away. So speaking of being distances from 0, okay, if we look at -5, we see that -5 is right here and then +5 is right here. And we look at 0, we know that +5 is 5 units from 0. We also know that -5 is 5 units from 0. Even though this is negative, okay, we're still going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to -5. Here we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to +5. So we're still going 5 jumps, even though it's positive one way and negative another way. So we call this the absolute value. Absolute value is the distance between that number and 0. So absolute value, one thing that we need to remember, is always positive. Okay, the value of an absolute value of a number is always, 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 always positive, whether the number inside the absolute value is negative or positive. Okay, so the absolute value of 5, we write it like this. These two lines right here on the sides, notice that they're straight. They are not curved like a parenthesis. Straight. So this tells us the absolute value of -5 equals 5. The absolute value of +5 equals 5 because it's still 5 spots away from 0. If we look at the absolute value of -4, okay, here's -4. The distance from 0 we know is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we're going negative, but we're jumping 4 spots, and we can't really jump a negative amount of number. Okay, so the absolute value of -4 is 4. I want you to pause me if you feel ready and try to do some of these or all of these problems on your own. So the absolute value of -21 is going to be +21 because anything negative in there is just turned to positive. The absolute value of 6 is still going to be 6. Okay, the absolute value of -5 plus the absolute value of 2, it's kind of like order of operations in parentheses. You do everything inside your absolute value first, and then you can add them together. So you get 5 plus 2, which is 7. Absolute value of 2 is 2, plus the absolute value of -3 is +3, so we get 5. Then here we have the absolute value of -6 is 6. Minus 5, because that's the absolute value of 5, and we get 1. Okay, so basically what you need to remember about absolute value is it's the distance away from 0, which is always going to be a positive number. So the absolute value of any number is that number turned positive. Okay, this is a couple things from lesson 2 too. So when two numbers are graphed on a number line, the number to the left is always less than the number to the right. Okay, the number to the right is always greater than the number to the left. So if we put two numbers on a number line like -4, can't really see that well, and -2, we know because the number to the left is always less than. So -4 is to the left, so -4 is less than -2. We could also write it as -2 is greater than -4. So remember, the greater than, the opening of our sign is always pointed to our larger number. It gets confusing with negatives because we're used to saying, no, 2 is less than 4. But it's totally opposite now with integers, because actually -1 is a lot bigger than -10. But on the flip side, yeah, 10 is a lot bigger than 1. Okay, -8 and -4. So -8 would be about right here, and -4, and it says the number to the left is always less than, so -8 is less than -4. 5, and -1. Well, whenever we have a positive and a negative and we're comparing them, we know the positive is always going to be bigger. Positive numbers are always bigger than negative numbers, even like 0.00000034 or whatever. We know that's bigger than 0 just by a hair, but we also know that it's going to be bigger than -1, -2, and so on. Okay, so we have 5 and -1. The positive number is greater. The opening goes always to the greater number. And then if we have -10 and -13, if we imagine this on a number line, we would imagine that -13 is a little bit further out than -10. So that means that -10 is greater than -13. Okay, I want you to figure out, I forgot I was going to draw some boxes here. I want you to figure out these problems by yourself. So you're going to fill in the circle here. Which one is less than, which one is greater than? Okay? So pause me and do this in your book. So -4 is greater than -6 because -4 is closer to 0 on the number line. If you wanted to draw a number line, or if you would like to, absolutely feel free to do so. If you don't need one, no worries. But these problems should be written down. 0 is greater than -10, -21, and -22. -21 is actually greater than -22. And then -5 and 5, we have a positive and a negative, so we know that our positive is always going to be greater. Okay, put in order from least to greatest. So we know that it's between -4 or -1 for our least. Okay, because -4 is farther away from 0. We're going to have -4, -1. Then we can put them in order. So then 2, 4, and 7. Okay, looking again at this one, we have -5 and -2, so I know one of those is going to be my least number. So -5 is actually greater than, or farther away from 0, and it's less than -2, so we have -2, then we have 0, then we have 1, and then we have 8. Okay, so I know that I moved kind of fast, but make sure that if you would like to go back in your book and reread, or also make sure that you go into NICU and take the 2-1 and 2-2 NICU quiz, which I put together into one quiz. Okay, have a super evening.